You swore to uphold both the federal and state constitutions, where in the First Amendment, federal, in Article 1, Section 4 and 10, does it state these rights may be suspended by the governor? And secondly, do you work for the governor and or Pro Tem Hill, or do you work for the citizens of your district? There you go. Ladies first. Ladies first.
Thank you. I could go on for a long time about this. I just want you to understand that we took a lot of time, the 27 Republicans in the Senate. In our caucus room, we spent hours and hours, and then more and more and more hours, going over what we would do because of the resolution that the House brought forward that demanded that the emergency declaration be stopped at that moment. We wanted to pass that. We wanted to be able to stand up and just on the floor of the Senate and be able to express really vigorously how frustrated we are that we were sidelined during this whole process, that we could not bring your views to the Senate or to the legislature because we could not call ourselves back into session according to the current laws. And we had all the same frustrations that you heard the House members express at length. But by the time that resolution got to us, we had gotten more legal opinions about the wording of a certain law that has been on the books for a very long time and the state constitution and how there's a conflict between them. So we had to deal with that because anytime a state law conflicts with the state constitution, the Constitution prevails. And I know you would all agree that that should be the case. However, we didn't want to make the House mad. We respect the House and we like the House and we wanted to agree with the House. But we also took an oath to uphold the state constitution as well as the US Constitution. So we were in a dilemma. How do we not make the House mad? And we respect the fact that they were bringing forward issues that we agree with. But the procedure that they were suggesting was against, we believed, was against the Constitution of the state under the current laws. So our dilemma was discussed at length in our caucuses. And what we decided to do was to write our own resolution, which I know you've heard we have. But how many of you have read the Senate resolution? Okay, a few, and I appreciate that. And we knew it was longer than the House's resolution, and we didn't want to be wordy, but we did want to express ourselves. It's almost 2 pages. I won't go through it all, but I will go through some of it. Now, you all understand that resolutions are the documents that say whereas, 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 therefore, and then it has the ending. So there are 13 whereases in our resolution, and we wanted to answer, we designed it together as a caucus, 27 people. And we edited it twice together, every single one of us in the room to edit it and to agree on it. And that's why no one disagreed when we were on the floor of the Senate, because we had all gone through every single word of this over and over again to make sure that we agreed. So I won't tell you all of the whereases because that would take up the rest of the afternoon, but we state in the whereases that we are a separate and equal branch of government, the legislature is. And we say that in the emergency response, we need to be included. And we say that there are contradictions and shortcomings in the Constitution, statutes, and rules regarding emergencies that have become clear. We also say that Article 9, Section 4 of the Idaho Constitution limits the topics that we can discuss or take action on in the special session. And we say that there's a law, 46-1008, that says the legislature may terminate a disaster emergency at any time. So those two, the Constitution and the law, conflict with each other, and the Constitution always rules. We also say that we want a greater ability of the legislature to respond in a timely fashion during an emergency, so that we can bring the concerns of the citizens of Idaho to the legislature. We're on to the second page, so we're almost there. We say that we acknowledge that under the current laws of Idaho, that removing the emergency declaration, which we would like to do, would not change the mask mandates, the school closures, the church restrictions, or group size restrictions, because those are all done at the local level through other laws that are in place.
Are those laws
I can't get into a conversation back and forth with the audience. I will tell you that, and then we say, we have a list. We have a list of 8 things that we plan to look at, and I have another one to add to that list. So there are 9 things that we will be looking at changing when we go back into session. And this is important because we want you all to know, and we want our peers in the House to know, and that's why we put it in this resolution, that we don't like what has happened, that we agree with the House. And this is what we plan to look at to change when we go back into full session. We want a declaration that all Idahoans that pay taxes and otherwise contribute to the Idaho economy must be deemed essential in any emergency. We say that an amendment to the Idaho Constitution will be brought forward that will provide that in limited circumstances, because no one wants a full-time legislature, including us, that in limited circumstances, the Idaho legislature may call itself back into session while remaining a part-time citizen legislature. We say that a limitation on the length of any emergency declaration of the governor without the concurrence of the legislature, and we will limit that. The governor will not be able to declare an emergency without bringing the legislature back in a very short time. We will limit the emergency powers and spending authority of the executive branch without the approval of the legislature. We will prohibit quarantining healthy individuals. We will end the orders prohibiting Idahoans from attending places of worship. We will empower the rescinding of existing emergency declarations, and we will review the authority of the public health districts and local government subdivisions in times of emergency. And then there are 2 more, be it further resolved, because these are statements that I think are really important and we wanted them to be in here. Be it further resolved by the Idaho Senate that all Idahoans have the right to physically participate in elections by presenting themselves at local polling stations to cast their ballots. Yes. And this is the last one. Be it further resolved that the Idaho Senate confirms the right of all Idahoans to make health and safety decisions for themselves and their families. So I do apologize if you are mad at us, but we're trying to do what we think is best, and we're trying to keep all of this out of court, and we're trying to be constructive and move this all ahead. We have good intentions. We agree with the House's intentions, and we will all work together in the next session.
Thank you, Senator Souza, for that good explanation. I want to go in, since she covered that part of it so well, I want to go take a little bit of a different tack, and that is that I have been accused of doing it for the money or doing it to get along with the governor, both of those things. I want to back up just a little bit. I have advocated ever since I got into the Senate that the legislature is not an equal branch of government. I have gone so far as to twice propose constitutional amendments to allow us to override a governor's veto after the session has ended, which we currently do not have the ability to do still. I got both of those amendments through the Senate. The second time I got it through the Senate unanimously, and for political reasons, I never got a hearing in the House. And so I just want needs to be clear that I'm a very strong advocate of the legislature being an equal branch of government. I would guess that Senator Souza has gotten accused likewise of doing it to not get crosswise with the governor. She just told you that he vetoed a bill that she worked hours and hours and hours on to help Representative Remington's program. She had all kinds of time into that thing, and he had just vetoed that earlier this spring. And so there are a lot of things that happen that I don't think that most people realize that cause a lot of tension between the governor and the legislative branch. And I just want to make it clear that I don't do things just so that I get along with the governor. I was accused when I sponsored my constitutional amendments. They said, "What is it about Governor Otter that you don't like?" I said, "Well, there's anything." Well, that's not true. But I said, I'm not doing this out of a personal vendetta. I'm doing it because the legislature needs to be an equal branch of government. And if you look at the Idaho Constitution, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say the legislature is an equal branch of government. It says they have their own areas. And so I think this whole idea where the legislature becomes an equal branch of government needs to be advocated and advocated more and in a responsible way. So I do need to go over, though, why in my mind, and I want to back up one more and say one more thing before I get into my final point about the constitutionality of the resolution from my perspective, and that is that no one, I would hope, would want a full-time legislature. The United States Congress used to meet about 90 days a year. And I think we would be much better off if they still only met 90 days a year. And so we need to be very careful as we move forward. When they wrote the Constitution of the state of Idaho, you have to realize that most of this was written in the late 1800s. So it's very difficult to get to Boise. But the words of the Constitution have to be interpreted in the way that they were written. And when the plain language is easy to understand, that's how you interpret it. And I mean to cast no aspersions on I think all of the House members voted for it, and they have their own reasons why they think it was constitutional, and some of them very well may tell you that. But if you look at Article, let me get to the right page here, Article 3, Section 9, and many of you I know have read this. It says, extra sessions of the legislature. The governor may on extraordinary occasions convene the legislature by proclamation, stating the purposes for which he has convened it. But when so convened, it shall have no power to legislate on any subjects other than those specified in the proclamation. So it renders, in essence, it renders the legislature powerless to move outside of those topics. So then the discussion becomes, was that part of the topics that the governor called us there for? And those in the House felt it was. I argued unsuccessfully to both my colleagues, but more specifically to leadership in the State Affairs Committee, that we should have a hearing on HCR 1. I was not successful because I felt that having the hearing might provide us with an opportunity to better understand the issue, because having been in the legislature now in 2 different states for 18 years, you can learn a lot from the public testimony. And I felt that that was important. And I think that we had information the House didn't have. I think the public hearing would have given us information that we didn't have. But we didn't prevail in that. And so, in the end, that was tabled. We didn't ever vote on it. The resolution was tabled on a unanimous consent. The House resolution was tabled on a unanimous consent request after our resolution had passed. We don't live in a, I don't live in a world where I get my way 100% of the time in the legislature, and I don't know that anybody up here at this table does either. But after our resolution passed, I walked across the rotunda and went and talked to the sponsor of the House resolution, Representative Harris. And he was very much looking forward to working with the Senate. As somebody up here earlier mentioned, the spirit of understanding and agreement on the problem is very, very strong. It's virtually unanimous in the Senate Republican caucus that the governor has overstepped his bounds. I'm frankly a little surprised that no one has challenged him in court on this. It has happened in Pennsylvania, and they succeeded in federal court, that they have been challenged in court. I believe the legislature is very limited, and it needs to be fixed, and it needs to be fixed in a way that we don't end up with a full-time legislature. And so, with that, I hope to continue to work with you. I very much believe in limited government. The Constitution was meant to limit the power of government, and in these specific cases, it was meant to limit the power of the legislature. And if you have a problem with that, we need to address it just the right way. Just as I get mad when liberals try to take away our gun rights by fiat without amending the Constitution, I don't think that I can do something that I want if I think, in my mind, the Constitution doesn't allow me that. Because at the beginning of every term, I stand up and I swear an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Idaho. take that very seriously.